Long ago, the four nations lived in harmony. Then, everything changed when coronavirus attacked. Only the Avatar Last Airbender after show could stop them, but when the world needed it most, it vanished. It aired 10 years ago. Finally, a new after show discovered this Avatar after show. It's an after show of perfect TV, and although our reviewing skills are great, it's going to take a lot more to end this virus than this show, but I believe this after show can save the world.
I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of AfterBuzz TV's Avatar: The Last Airbender rewatch show. We're still stuck in quarantine, and Avatar's on Netflix, so we figured, why not go back and rewatch the greatest show of all time? Joining me, as always, is our Earthbender, Gunnar. Gunnar, how are you doing today, man?
We're in my kingdom now, baby. I'm so excited.
Yes, we are finally where your people will be thriving, and Elgin...
Your people?
I was just about to make a joke.
He is the Earth Kingdom people.
I wasn't going to say it.
Calm down. He represents the Earth Kingdom. We're good.
All right.
Moving on.
We
have our still first-time watcher, Elgin, representing the Water Tribe. Elgin, how are you doing today, man?
I still wish we were in the Book of Water, but it's cool to be in the Earth Town, City, whatever you want to call it. I'm excited to talk about these two episodes.
Great. And as always, we have our producer, Ryan, who is representing the Foggy Swamp people. Ryan, how are you doing today,
Ryan
man?
in DeBoof, guys. I'm hyped for talking 2 awesome episodes this week with, the Avatar State and Cave of Two Lovers. One of these is a personal favorite episode of mine, that being Cave of Two Lovers. So I can't wait to break into it, break into song, break into Taoism, and sing about a secret tunnel. How about you, Eric?
Yeah, I feel like there are going to be quite a lot of song breaks in this episode. And of course, guys, I am joining as well, your host. I am Eric, representing the Fire Nation. So Elgin, I still got to wait a little bit for my book and my favorite tribe to finally show up. And like Ryan said, we are finally, guys, on Book 2 Earth. We are talking about the first 2 episodes, the Avatar State and the Cave of Two Lovers. And that is it. Those are the only 2 episodes we'll be talking about. So please, Elgin has not seen this show before. Don't spoil anything in the comments or in the live chat for him, guys. These are 2 really good episodes. We're very excited to get into it. And as always, we are going to have our favorite bingo game. We finally got bingo for the last 2 episodes last week of season 1. Took us a while, but we finally got there. We'll see if we get it again for these 2. And of course, Gunner's going to be shouting out one of your guys' iTunes reviews for us. So if you guys want to get a shout out on air, leave a 5-star review on iTunes. Really helps out the show, and we'll read it on air for you guys. So are you guys ready to talk about episode 1, the Avatar State?
Avatar State, activate. Let's go.
All right. So first thing that I noticed doing this rewatch was that Zuko says a line that it's been 3 weeks since the events of the season finale, which I never realized watching this years ago. I thought it just picked up right away, but Zuko's like, nah, it's been 3 weeks, or Iroh says it's been 3 weeks. So I was like, oh, they're kind of keeping a little bit of more consistency with time, so that's cool.
They got a day timer, Eric. They have a calendar.
A sun calendar.
A sun calendar.
Probably at this point, yeah. So we have the group. They are leaving the Northern Water Tribe to finally go and find our old friend Bumi, so he can start teaching Aang earthbending. Elgin, I think I remember you liked Bumi when we first met him. So are you excited for Aang to try and go and learn earthbending from, honestly, it's his oldest friend, really. So are you excited to go see Bumi again?
Yeah, for the most part, until I saw the last other episode. So, I mean, we'll see.
Yeah, that's a little tease for you guys there. We will see what happens going forward. But yeah, so they have to stop at an Earth Kingdom military base to get some resupplies. They're going to get an armed escort to Omashu. And I was like, oh, wow, armed escort. This is getting very serious. Like, the Fire Nation is a real threat. Everyone knows the Avatar is back. Like, they need all hands on deck to help win this war. So we arrive in General Fong. He is the one who is supposed to help them get to Omashu. And he drops a bomb on us immediately saying, I think Aang can go and defeat the Fire Lord right now.
I have a massive shout out. So
Go ahead, Ryan.
little fun fact here, peek behind the curtain of the casting of General Fong. General Fong's played by Daniel Dae Kim. This is the guy who was in Lost for many years. He played Jin in Lost, Hawaii Five-O. Like, he's a big-time Korean actor, and he's an amazing voice actor. Like,
Yeah.
he crushes it as General Fong. And I just loved this character. Like, right out of the gate, he's got his own agenda. He really wears it on his chest, and kind of makes you a little uncomfortable. And he's also funny, though.
Yeah, that's one thing I did notice this time as well. It's that he, from what we know about the Earth Kingdom, they're very stubborn people. That's pretty much how they're described. They're very stubborn, set in their ways. And the Fire Nation are the more aggressive people. But on this, with General Fong, it's completely reversed. General Fong is like, no, we're not holding our ground anymore. You are going to go in the Avatar state, and we are going to attack the Fire Nation head on. Gunnar, this is your. You've been watching the show many times before. What was your reaction to Fong just being like, no, forget learning the other elements, go into the Avatar state? You destroyed an entire fleet of Fire Nation soldiers. Why can't you do that right now? What was your reaction watching it again this time?
Well, I don't like to think all of my people are that stubborn, but
I'm never going to live that down.
Oh, never, absolutely not. This whole episode, I remember in watching it again, always of how much it frustrated me, but also I understood it because we obviously know the Avatar State is the most powerful ability the Avatar has, but he doesn't know how to control it, and of just the stubbornness and like how hard war can make a situation that if we have this ability to use, why not use it? But also the risks that come with it just aren't worth it, especially at the risk of one of my favorites like Katara and how cruel he was to Aang. So it just wasn't it. It wasn't it for him, right?
Yeah, I agree with you where you're coming from there, that Fong kind of has the right idea. Like, we have such a powerful weapon with the Avatar state right now. And I do understand where he's coming from with his point later, where he shows Aang, these are all the men came home from war. They're the lucky ones. Like, other people have been dying for this war. You are the most powerful person. Let's just go and attack. Where it's a very baseline argument to start with, just because no one really knows what the Avatar state is until the end of this episode. We finally get a lesson on that. But they're right. Aang doesn't know how to control it. It only happens when he is in great despair, or someone he loves, such as Katara at the end, is in grave danger. So Fong, I think he does have a good idea of just going to attack the Fire Nation, but Aang is just raw power, and he's not a fine-tuned machine at this point, where if he had gone to attack Fire Lord Ozai right now, probably wouldn't have been making it back.
This was actually, I thought this was like a storyline that, we this is funny, we did the movie last week, because it was the end of season 1, so we covered the M. Night Shyamalan movie. This is actually a storyline, an episode that I actually think would have hit even harder in live action, because the idea that, like, this is, Aang's basically like a nuke, but he doesn't know how to aim the nuke, and I kind of hear this general's point. Like, he is kind of this over-the-top character, so you are looking at him as sort of like a villain who has like these cruel intentions, but he's actually looking for the greater good. Like, he really just wants to end this war, and if this maybe wasn't like so much of a kid's show, and they showed just how much destruction, just how much death, like really leaned into, like, they slaughtered the Airbenders. Like, we need to end this now. I think I would have been a little bit more conflicted, but just because of how, I think, like, over the top he was, I never really bought into his like line of thinking at all.
Yeah, so Ryan brought it up. Let's just jump into the end of the episode, guys. Where at least the end of Aang's storyline here. General Fong, Aang does not want to help him. And Aang tells Fong, hey, I can only go into the Avatar state when there's danger or someone I love is being hurt. So Fong and the Earthbenders just start attacking Aang, like going brutal. We get a good boomerang throw in there. I was very happy when we saw that. But General Fong takes it a step further, and he starts attacking Katara. And Aang is still pleading. He's trying to go in the Avatar state. And what finally sends Aang over the edge is when Fong pretty much just sinks Katara into the ground. Elgin, what was your reaction when you saw how far Fong was willing to go for this, and then just seeing Aang lose it on Fong and these Earthbenders when he's finally in the Avatar state?
It kind of just gave me like good guy with good intentions, but the wrong way of going
Mhm.
about the situation. And I felt like after that, with the scene with the Avatar state, it kind of just zeroed in for me that these two, like especially this episode, just like it starting out as the season 2 premiere, really gave me a sense of what's at cost. Because I feel like in season 1, you kind of do know what's at cost. Like they kind of just throw it in there here and there with Ozai and stuff like that. But I felt like
Right.
these 2 episodes, and specifically this one, really zeroed in really quickly at what is at stake. Not only for Aang, but also for the external stuff like Ozai and his internal battle with, what happens if he dies in the
Mhm.
Avatar state. So it really zeroed in for me, like what's at stake with everything, and it makes me want to watch it even more.
Yeah, that's a good point. And Elgin talked about it right there as well. We finally learn what the Avatar state really is in this episode. The glowing of the eyes and the tattoos in the Airbenders instance is that it is all of the past knowledge and power of all of the previous avatars joining forces, which essentially means the avatar that is currently alive is the most powerful person in the world, even against like the most previous avatar, because Aang
Mhm.
has Roku's knowledge and Roku had Kyoshi and everyone before him. And the big important thing that we learn in this episode about the Avatar state is that yes, the Avatar is like pretty much all powerful in this state, but if they die in this state, the Avatar cycle is over. Elgin, how did you react to hearing that information just dropped on you right there?
I thought it was a cool concept. I mean, the most strongest person is the most vulnerable person at the same time. So it kind of really just zeroed into what's at stake, like I said before, and just the cost of everything. And it also makes the Avatar state so much more important in
Mhm.
those little moments that we do get it. So I'm already like feeling like they're gonna try to kill this guy in the Avatar state since they just dropped that little gem in there. So I'm like kind of nervous to keep watching now. So we'll see.
Yeah, so that kind of wraps up Aang's storyline in this. Really, like they don't really do too much. Well, not that they don't do too much, but he really learns about the Avatar state, which is the biggest takeaway for him in this episode. So I really want to. Are you guys ready to jump into Zuko's storyline, which is
Mhm.
my favorite storyline of the entire season?
Well,
Really.
like I want to. There's one more thing. There's one
Yeah,
more
go
thing
ahead, Ryan.
because like I think the Avatar State happens. He gets him there and blows everyone away.
Literally.
And
Yeah.
it's, I mean, the whole vulnerability of like seeing Katara go underground, like that was dark. Like the idea that he was willing to do that, but also I found it amazing to see how he calmed down from that, where he like kind of lowers and then Katara just
Right.
hugs him, and
Hmm.
that it basically reminded me of, if you've ever seen like the Avengers, like Black Widow like singing like a lullaby to Hulk.
To
Uh,
Hulk.
he's basically hulking out in this, and I think it's really interesting concept that like he's his most vulnerable while he's in that state. But it also, if that wasn't the case, he'd always be in the Avatar state.
That's a good point as well. And you hit a good point there as well, that it's Katara is the one who set him off. Where he was Fong was attacking Aang, and Aang was like, I can dodge, I can evade, I'll do what I have to. But as soon as Katara was in danger, that's when Aang was like, this is where I'm drawing the line. Here we go. But are you guys ready to talk about Zuko? So we find
Oh yeah.
out that Zuko and Iroh, they're still kind of on the run. They've spent 3 weeks on that driftwood. And we learned that today for this episode was Zuko's 3 years of being banished. And we have Zuko saying, like, I just want my honor. I want my father not to think that I am just a reject and a disgrace. And Iroh has the great line, I'm sure he's not ashamed of you. He wouldn't have sent you away otherwise. And as funny as that line is, it kind of changes Iroh's character a little bit for me, because season 1, he's like, no, Zuko, you don't need this. You are fine by yourself. But suddenly he's kind of defending his brother here, which is just a little weird for me. But the big thing that happens in this episode is Azula and Zuko finally come face to face again. Azula tells him, Zuko and Iroh, that father changed his mind. Family means so much to him right now. We want you to come back to the Fire Nation. And Zuko's an idiot and believes her. Iroh immediately is like, no, my brother would never change his mind. This is this. Like, this is a straight up lie. And what do you know? Azula was lying about it. And it's, to me, it looked like this betrayal again really hurt Zuko, especially when you realize that I caught this shot where Azula is about to shoot Zuko full of lightning and essentially kill him.
Yeah.
And he just has a look that this is my sister trying to kill me right now. And he would have died if it wasn't for Iroh redirecting the lightning and actually saving him. And this episodes like this really push, like they really show you how much Zuko and Iroh care about each other. Because the night before, Zuko yells at Iroh saying, "You are just a jealous old man. You are jealous of your brother who's better than you." And he's going to go home by himself. But Iroh puts his pride aside and says, "Nope, I'm coming with you." And you could see how happy Zuko was when Iroh decides to come with him. Elgin, what do you think of their relationship just from this episode versus season 1? And what did you think of Zuko being dumb enough to fall for Azula's betrayal?
I mean, I feel like it is a little bit different, but with some of the same aspects of the relationships. But I feel like now Iroh, just from I believe it was this episode, just him trying to put him on the right path, but Zuko still kind of waning off of what Iroh intends for him to be on. So I feel like that's going to be like a really major component in that. But for Zuko to be that dumb, I just thought it was crazy, especially in certain scenes in the other season where Zuko does listen to his uncle, but I feel like the acceptance and the need of wanting to be with his father clouded his judgment. So I don't really blame him too much for that. But it was funny when the guy accidentally said, "Take the prisoners to the gates." That was hilarious to me.
This episode really does a great job of just setting up how terrifying Azula can be. Just from her introduction, where she's like, "The tides have made up their mind on if they're going to kill you, but I still haven't." Gunnar, you've seen this before. Azula's intro always hits so hard every time, doesn't it?
Azula's appearance on camera always hits so hard. You were just constantly re-engaged and re-established of how much, for the moment, so much better of a villain she is than Zuko. Because Zuko is kind of a punk. He's not super that bad. And also Azula is obviously the smarter one and the more experienced and trained one. I do love, in our live chats, we love having you guys talk with us. Ivan Soda making a comparison of Azula is the Joker to Zuko's Batman.
Oh, yeah, that's a very interesting point. That's a very interesting one there. One of my favorite things about this episode is when Zuko and Azula start fighting each other, you just see that Zuko immediately pulls out his fire daggers. He fights more with his rage, but Azula is just countering every attack. She's so much more precise than him, and she doesn't try and make a blow until she's sure she can hit him with lightning. But of course, Iroh comes in to save him. But the best part of this episode is when they cut off their top knots and they go on the run at the end. Elgin, this is a very big moment for a lot of the fan base. Zuko's hair is a hotly debated topic among the fan base. So it's great. I love when they cut off the top knots. I think it is such a good, because it's a symbol of them being like, no, yes, Zuko is still wanting to pursue the Avatar, but for him right now, this is no, I'm more just trying to survive. So yeah. Do you guys have any last thoughts on this episode? Ryan, I know you like this one. Do you guys have any other thoughts before we jump into bingo?
I think it's setting the table. It's like it's the first one, season 2. They came with a bang with I think the Aang storyline, and we're kind of like setting up. It's setting up, but it's effective setting up.
Yeah, that's really a good point, Ryan.
Really building into a huge so much more world building. We've already seen so much of the Avatar universe, and now they're going to
Right.
go even deeper. It's really going to make a
Mhm.
bang, like a lightning bang.
All right. So, hey guys, question for you two. Did we get bingo this episode?
I'm saying yes.
All right, Gunnar saying yes. Elgin.
I'm gonna go with a yes too. Hopefully, we start off this season with a bang.
Well, guys, we got 3 bingos in this episode.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a holy
Guys,
cow.
We got
I'm done.
3 bingos in this episode.
Shoot.
It is insane.
Everyone at home
I was
can
just
see it.
marking. Yeah, I was marking things like, oh my goodness. So for our audio listeners, our bingo board across the top we have airbending, or excuse me, waterbending, Aang in disguise, Cabbage Man, Angry Zuko, earthbending. Line 2 we have Avatar Roku. Zuko talks about his honor. Sokka yells what he's about to do. Bison whistle used. Katara talk about her mother. Line 3 Angry Katara. All 4 elements used. Free space, new character, lightning bending. Line 4 is Zuko being mocked. Iroh drinks or talks about tea. The Avatar state is used. Boomerang make yip yip is said. And finally, in our final row, we have firebending. A new animal appears. Gullible or just dumb Fire Nation soldiers. A flashback and airbending. And guys, we had so much this episode. Starting off the top, we have waterbending. Aang is using it in his dream. Katara tries to use it in the fight. We have Angry Zuko when he is fighting with Azula. And we have earthbending. And I really like the use of earthbending here, how they're able to just
So
blow
cool.
rocks up to make fireworks. Like, that is so cool. Then we do have Avatar Roku shows up, and we get a few glimpses of some other past avatars. We have Zuko talking about his honor. Line 3, we have an angry Katara, because she gets very mad at Aang and Sokka when they agree to help General Fong. We have all 4 elements being used. Plus, we have the addition of lightning bending being used as well in this episode. So we got kind of 5 elements being bended this episode. We have our free space. We had new characters. So we have Fong. We have the past avatars. And we have the twins that are talking with Katara. Or excuse me, with Azula. We have Zuko being mocked, who, let's face it, that was all Azula during their entire fight. She was just openly mocking him. Obviously, we have the Avatar state being used. We have Boomerang making an appearance. We have Yip Yip being said only once in this episode. We have firebending during their final fight. We have a flashback, a very, very brief one, but it is a quick shot of Zuko remembering Iroh putting his hand on his shoulder once Zuko and Iroh reconnect coming down the mountain. And finally, we had airbending with Aang using his scooter. So, guys, this was a great bingo board to start off this season. Like, I really don't think it can get better than this. We got 3 bingos in one go here again.
We're getting a blackout. We're gonna get a blackout.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get.
That was great. All right, so now, guys, since we're done our bingo, Gunnar is going to read out one of your guys' 5-star reviews for us on iTunes. If you guys want to get a shout out, please leave us a 5-star review. We will read it on air. It helps us out so much. So please, Gunnar, go ahead and take it away.
All right, back with more Sozin's comments. And if you want to also continue the conversation on social media with any of us, just use the hashtag SOZINCOMMENTS. But for our iTunes review for 5 stars, I want to give a huge shout out to DMC649. Really enjoyed the mix of familiarity to the canon. Also allows us to see the intense anticipation and hindsight of this great story from your respective perspectives. Like the little rhyme right there.
Yes, guys, thank you so much for that shout out. Like we said, we will read them out for you. If you give us a 5-star review, you get your guys' review shouted on there. Pretty great. All right, guys, so this is our producer, Ryan Nilsson's favorite episode of the series.
Okay, I think this is like a personal favorite episode. Ever
All
since
right.
we even were talking about this after show into existence, this was an episode that I was like, oh man, I can't wait till we get there. The Cave of Two Lovers, which
Yes, Ryan, I'm very excited to hear your thoughts.
yeah, I'm amped. This is, I think, I'm not gonna like talk about the whole thing quite yet, but this is probably an example of an episode that you would classify as filler. But I would argue that this is not filler. I think by like the general definition of filler, where like, oh, it doesn't necessarily advance the plot, it's like nothing, like there's no huge revelation. I think this is a really great character episode, and they basically the plot is, let's get through this cave.
Yeah, it's get from point A to point B.
Point A to point B. Mad Max.
Yeah, Ryan, you and I are going to argue and disagree on this episode quite a little bit then. And like Elgin said at the very beginning, there is a big surprise at the end of this episode that I don't think he was ready to see at this point, quite frankly. So, real quick, just to get going, this whole episode really boils down to the group cannot fly over a mountain pass to get to Omashu because there's too many Fire Nation soldiers. So they meet up with this group of nomads who just walk around singing lots of songs. Where Elgin, this might be the most memed episode of the show, honestly. But we quickly realize Sokka does not like this group of people. He is annoyed by their singing. They're far too optimistic for him. But they end up having to go into a very dark tunnel that will lead them to Omashu. And there's a cave-in. Well, not really a cave-in, but the Fire Nation kind of causes them to get trapped inside. And Appa gets scared. He does not like being underground. And he causes a cave-in, separating the groups. So we're really following just two different groups of people in this episode, or at least on their storyline, of Aang, Katara, and Appa, and Sokka with his favorite traveling nomads and Momo. Elgin, did you like the addition of these nomads, or were you kind of annoyed by their characters?
I think I was more so just ambivalent towards them because I feel like they weren't really necessarily there to do anything with character development. Really, I felt like they were just possibly there to go with Sokka and let Katara and Aang have their moment.
Ryan, you had a reaction. What are your thoughts right now?
Guys, I mean, this is, first of all, we're coming off of like a really dark end of season 1.
True.
Kind of a serious first episode of season 2. I think you have to liven it up a little. And I think these were the perfect characters. I love the Nomads so much. I think they're the best comic relief in the entire series of Avatar.
I'll agree with you there.
And what the thing is about them is not only are they kind of like this fun comic relief, but they are the angle of like, let's not take everything too seriously. Like sometimes you need to sit back and relax. They are like the extreme of that. But I think what the significance of their run-in with them, our crews, is that they gotta realize like they gotta stay a little live and up. Yeah, it's serious. Like I gotta master all these elements, but at the same time, like I gotta chill. I gotta be a little go with the flow, and I think that they learn that from these guys.
Yeah, I'll agree with you there, Ryan. Honestly, this episode for me, I disagree with Ryan a lot on this episode. It is very filler for me. Like, I think you can summarize this episode in maybe 10 sentences. Like,
well.
I really don't think much happens on the Sokka side.
Eric Jewell,
every time.
Yes,
Ryan.
Summing up every episode with 10 sentences and all the recaps. So I don't know what you mean by that.
Whoa.
If you are going to break this episode down, I think the majority of anything important happens with Zuko and Aang and Katara. I think the Sokka side is purely just for the comedic relief, except we do see the Badger Moles with him. But every time we cut to Sokka with the Nomads, it's just they're making a joke about how serious Sokka takes everything. And Ryan, you're right. That does, I guess, help him become more calm and relaxed later.
But Eric, the thing that I think actually I would argue it's the other way around, sir. I think that
Go ahead, Ryan. Take this away.
The Sokka actually learns the most this episode. Because it's funny and he's frustrated, but Sokka's way too calculated. He always needs a plan. It always needs to be this precise. Like, this needs to happen now at this time. Boom, 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 boom. And when he's put in the situation where it's beyond his control, he can't bend. They have to go through this tunnel. They can't fly over. Like, and he's at the... He has to follow, he has to trust these people he's not familiar with. He has to go with the flow. And him being put out of his comfort zone, that's actually what I thought made this episode so fascinating. Every time he tried to do a map, he tried to figure it out, he really tried to like be the controlling Sokka that we're so used to. It just set them back. It wasn't until they went with the flow, they turned out the light, if you will, and just kind of trusted.
I argue with that.
That is the lesson.
I argue with the fact that Sokka and his group turn out the light? Because they don't. They have the badger moles. The badger moles are the ones that say,
wait.
"What's up,
Okay.
Gunner? What's your
So
point?"
I have to judge in because I agree with both of you in the instance that I think the episode is very filler because it's such a, to me.
I'll disagree.
So, but I do agree that it actually isn't a filler because it does progress a lot of plots actually into our sequel series, Legend of Korra, that I just realized I'll talk about after the show. So that's a tangent I realized. But we see character plot development. We see personal development amongst themselves. So Sokka is able to not be a Boy Scout. So I don't say he's controlling. I say he's a Boy Scout, and then it's calculated and a leader, and he doesn't like a waste of time. He's the dumb one of the group at times, but he also doesn't like a waste of time because he thinks his jokes are purposeful and important.
I guess I'm just really in the minority of this episode then. I don't really care for it. I think the Zuko storyline, I think, is the most interesting of this episode, really. Yeah, Elgin, what are your thoughts on... You said you don't think it's a filler. You were agreeing with Ryan, so where are you coming from in this argument then?
I think it could have been filler for Sokka just because it's like the cave of two lovers and his girlfriend is practically the moon at this point, so he really has no objective. But I feel like for the most part, like in traditional anime fillers or any type of filler, there isn't really any aspect of character building at all. It's just like a seamless episode that is just not advancing any kind of plot at all, like character wise or story, like in general at all. So I feel like with this one, we may have not gotten the plot of the story advanced, but I feel like there was a lot of moments for character development, especially with Zuko finding another perspective of the Fire Nation that maybe they aren't the good guys, and we have done a lot of bad things. And I feel like with that's a lot of progression in terms of character development. And then even with Katara and Aang having their moment and kind of knowing that they both like each other. And I feel like you don't get that in a filler.
Yeah,
I feel like you just get
guys,
lots
it's
of
love.
nonsense.
It's a love episode. You have no love in your heart. Like, I honestly think that this episode is so genuinely sweet. I really do think
very,
they
very
pull
good
it
episode.
off. Like, it's
I
hard
agree.
to do these. It's hard to do episodes of television, especially in a kids show, where like you're involving all these romance elements. But I really think they pull it off here. Like the moment where their torch is going down. Like, there's so many ways that could have come off weird or come off wrong. But like, I felt the butterflies in the stomach. I felt the like insecurity. Like, I'm gonna take a risk here. I really thought they captured that well, and that's what makes this stand out from a filler episode.
Absolutely.
Cave of
Sure.
Two Lovers, Eric. Find the love in your heart, dude.
Because you don't even know if they actually kissed. You really don't know what happened because the lights came back on because they
Oh
trusted.
boy,
They totally
kissed.
made out.
They 100%
definitely
kissed
did.
there.
I'm just glad you guys are all. I'm like,
If
yeah,
you-
y'all locked
You know
Just
what?
from the
I'm-
blushing the two of them had at the end of the episode, where Aang's like, "We followed, like we've trusted in love." I was like, "Yeah, you fully kissed right there, bro.
followed
You're so
Badger
happy
moles.
right now."
And I'm telling you
We
this,
followed vaginals.
I'm going to make a supercut edit where right after they make out, Fireflies, the song Fireflies starts playing.
No.
Because that's everything that
You
lights
know
up.
what? I'm signing out.
I
gotta
want to
go.
make myself believe that planet Earth slowly.
I gotta go. Can I drop?
10,000 fireflies.
Anyway, coming back from that, you guys must like this part so much more than me. But before we jump over to the Zuko storyline, the big reveal that we see at the end of this episode, once they get out of the tunnel, is that Omashu has been taken over by the Fire Nation. Elgin, how did you react to that for the first time? Because this was one of the two big strong points. They hadn't been able to take Omashu or Ba Sing Se yet. And now they've taken the second largest Earth Kingdom capital. Like, how did you react?
So I'm just preparing myself in case my boy Bumi dead. You know, I'm preparing for the worst. So we'll see. You know, I'll be happy if he's alive, and I don't know at this point. I'm kind of scared.
Yeah, Elgin, we'll have to get back to that. But before Elgin can wallow in sadness over Bumi any longer, we're going to jump over to the Zuko storyline, where I love Zuko. Zuko is my favorite character in this show.
I didn't
And
know that, Eric. It's not like you say it every week.
Oh yeah, like every 5 seconds actually. Like
Oh,
every
we're
5 seconds.
gonna need
You know
a
We
what?
new
should put that on a
producer.
bingo board.
Zuko
I'm
maybe
gonna-
That really should.
he wouldn't be such a bad guy if he like took a trip to the Cave of Two Lovers and found the love
So
of his
if
life.
anybody in the chat would like to, I'm looking for 2 new co-hosts and I'm looking for a new producer for this show. Please DM me on Twitter. My
Yeah,
DMs
actually,
are
we
open.
need a-
I'm
we
so
need a
ready for this.
Moderator, we need a new Fire Nation representative.
Anyway, so we have Zuko and Iroh. Iroh talks about tea finally, and he drinks a tea that essentially is poison for him. He and Zuko go to an Earth Kingdom village, and they are taken care of by a very nice woman named Song. And she kind of just opens herself up to the two of them. She's just like, "Hey, I'll make you guys dinner. You're welcome to stay at my place." She really brings them into their home. And I like this specifically for Zuko because he's seeing that there are other people in the world who have been affected by the war in different ways than he has, and also in very similar ways, where he realized Song says, "Oh, is your father off fighting in the war?" And Zuko's answer is yes, but he's fighting in the war a very different way than Song's father was. And Elgin, how did you react seeing that she has a burn on her leg? And we get a big reaction from Zuko there, like shocked, like, "Oh my goodness, I thought I was the only one with a burn." What was your reaction to that human moment for him?
I was like, okay, well, this is actually kind of amazing because I feel like people like Zuko are those type of people that are stuck in a fishbowl and they're not kind of aware that there's a whole nother world around them with a whole bunch of people with different experiences and perspectives. So the fact that he was able to see the other side and see these other perspectives from people of what his own people have done was great. I love that.
Yeah, I like this moment for him because, like I said, he's seeing a different side. People are nice. Not everybody is going to betray and abuse you like a lot of people in his past has. And a big moment for me right now that shows that Zuko has a long way to go in his character development is this woman offers them their home. She makes food for them to take. And Zuko still steals from them. He takes like their ostrich horse with them. Gunnar, how do you react to that? Seeing this woman being so kind, and Zuko essentially just like stabs her in the back.
Well, we know Zuko's your favorite, so I'm afraid to like talk bad about him. I might get canceled. But honestly, for me, I thought it was good to see because I always think it's really important when the royal character or the upper class character does see things from the bottom and the reverse as well. Like when the lower end person sees them in the heights and how neither side has it perfectly easy. They have their own unique struggles that the other won't understand. But to me, it didn't surprise me because Zuko is still a very selfish character. And this episode, even with how it was still about, oh, I'm abandoned, I'm on my own, especially now I have my sister hunting for me. It felt so repetitive from the last episode. I remember this even when I first watched it. I was kind of a bit let down. I was just like, we're not going to progress anymore. The only plus I get is that we see his hair grew. So it looks better now already.
Yes.
And that's all now excited for.
Yeah, so I guess again, there was a bit of a time jump here. We don't exactly know how long it was, but it was long enough for Zuko to go from practically bald to having almost a full head of hair.
Yeah,
so
like, really fast.
Yeah. Again, I think this episode is mostly filler. I think there are some very, very small moments that add to the overall story. What are your guys' final thoughts on this before we go to bingo? Ryan, you have a reaction.
First off, I think this. I think it's episodes like these that really, really build for future payoffs. But I think there are payoffs in this episode. Like I said, I think I dare you to find me a better show from an animated series that pulls off a romance scene like they do in this one. I also dare you to find a funnier episode of Avatar than this one. And
I'll give you that one.
I triple dog dare Eric Jewell.
Ooh.
No.
Whoa.
I just think that I think it's a cool cliffhanger with Omashu. The one thing, like, as big a fan as I am of this episode, like, you tried flying over and the Fire Nation was flinging, fired rocks at you. Like, you couldn't have assumed that they were already on the other side. Like, that was the one thing I was like, huh?
That's very true. That's very true.
Yeah.
But I think that there's a lot of interesting stuff that happens in this cave. And I think it is a really, like, this is prime Avatar for me. Like, there's not other series that can pull things off like this. And it's also, this is a very different episode. Like, there's no Avatar state. There's very little bending. Like, everyone's kind of disarmed. There's not much that he can do. Like, you're just following your own intuition. And I think it's going with the flow.
And I'll agree with you, Ryan, that I think this episode really does set up a lot of things for payoff later on down in the series, but I personally just wish they could have spread that out a little bit more, because I just don't really feel as fulfilled in this episode, because like you said, there's a lot of setup. I wish more things that were hinted at and set up in this episode could have been fulfilled in this episode. So I just think there's just a lot of things dangling that I think could have been cleaned up a bit. Gunnar, what are your final thoughts on it?
I definitely know what you mean, but I think that's part of the beauty of Avatar is that they both fulfill things in their episodic like style while also developing an arc and placing little pieces that almost every episode you can go back and say from the premiere to the finale, holy crap, every single episode built the puzzle pieces into it.
Right.
But I love the reference of how there was a no bending. This was almost like anti-ability type episode. And I meant to mention this last episode, but the first episode was the very first time we see Aang earthbend, even though it is in the Avatar state. Because he does move the boulders and everything.
You are correct.
He has that disadvantage.
You are correct. Yeah. Elgin, what are your final thoughts on this one?
I mean, I love both of these episodes, especially the first one. Like I said earlier, with just the costs of everything and what's at stake was especially shown in the first episode. And I know I said last season that I had a beef with Zuko, but then the season finale at the end with him kind of made me feel sorry for him. But then after the second episode, he's on my own site list again. So I'm beefing with him. So he's gonna have to put in some work to get off that list. Yeah.
Oh, Elgin, I really hope you
to.
come around and love him like I do.
Also, a facepalm is my favorite bit.
Oh my god, we do not talk about that. Why
that is one of the funniest moments of this season, where at the end, Sokka has just red spots on his forehead, and Chong comes up and goes, "Nobody freak out about what I'm going to tell you. I think he's the Avatar." Ryan, you're right. This is arguably the funniest episode of this series.
That's very true.
So funny.
That's a good one. All right, well, guys, my final question for you guys. Did we get bingo?
Absolutely not.
No.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Even close? Even close?
Absolutely not. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Maybe
6,
the fewest.
7, 8. I think it might be.
I kind of wonder. I thought so.
And one of them was our free space. So in this episode, we had our training in the water before they go in the cave. We have earthbending because we see the badger moles and how they were the first earthbenders. We get nothing on line 2. We have angry Katara right after my favorite line in the whole series of Aang saying, "What? I said I'd rather kiss you than dying. That's a compliment." And Katara's just so angry.
It's your favorite line of the whole series.
Moving on, Ryan.
It's really funny.
We have our free space. We have our free space. Some new characters. We got all of the Nomads who just start walking around. And we have Song, who's the woman who takes Iroh and Zuko into her home. We have Zuko drinking tea to very ill effect where he is poisoned. We get new animals. We get the wolf bats and the badger moles.
So cool.
We get a flashback, which was, what flashback did we get? Or did I just mark that wrong on this
we got
episode?
one of the Cave of Two Lovers, right?
Oh, you're right.
Yes.
We have the background for the Cave of Two Lovers. And then we have airbending, which very small in this episode. I think the only time we see it is Aang pushing everybody out from under the falling rocks. So like Ryan said, this was a very low bending episode. It was a very character episode. And this is the smallest amount of bingo we have gotten.
Oh my god, Eric, you just made me realize something I actually never even thought I know I was joking about that being your favorite line, but that even makes that scene more interesting because it's a genuine, like, even if, okay, they definitely kissed, but he said that at the beginning of the episode, so it's like, what's going through everyone's head? Is it just like that or die?
See, look at that. I'm making Ryan come around to my side.
You make me like it more.
I was like, you just helped to make his point stronger.
Great. Well, thank you everybody so much for tuning in to this very heated episode of our rewatch series. Join us next week where we'll be talking about episodes 3 and 4 of Book 2. Ryan, where can people find you online to keep the conversation going?
Secret, you can find me at Ryan Nilsson on Twitter, at Ryan Nilsson, NILSEN _ on Instagram. Elgin Ball, where can people find you?
You guys can find me on Instagram at Elgin _ Ball and on Twitter as well. What about you, Gunner?
You can find me on all social medias at the Gunner Thomas, and also make sure you check out our hashtag Soz in Comments, SOZINCOMMENT. Thank you so much for Madam Jamalot for joining us for the first time for her first live episode. Thank you, Daniel.
Congratulations.
Ivan Soto, and a happy birthday shout out to Sydney.
Yes, and you guys can find me online on Twitter and Instagram at EricJoel11. Send me applications. We're looking for a new producer and some new co-hosts right now.
And a new moderator, a new Fire Nation representative, actually.
Yes. Thank you guys so much for tuning in for these episodes. Like I said, we will be back next week to talk about our next episodes 3 and 4. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk, and we will see you guys next week. Have a good one, guys.
Bye.
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.